Hello, everybody. It's that time of the week again. Time to interview the latest winner on The Ultimate Fighter Season 30. This week, we have Brogan Walker here with us. Brogan, how is it going? Congrats.
Thank you, Charlie. It's going well.
Okay, so I feel like I'm taking your spot right now because as a first grade teacher, you're probably the one usually asking the questions to the class, which brings me just to my first question. You're a first grade teacher, also a fighter in MMA. So, I mean, the dichotomy of it all is insane. What do your students think about your career?
Yeah, so I have been bivocational since the beginning of, when I started teaching. But because they're, 6 and 7 year olds, the world of MMA is not in their jurisdiction. So for the most part, they have no clue what their teacher does outside of, like most 6 year olds, they have no clue that their teacher even has a life other than being their teacher. So
I can only imagine what they would think and how their opinion of you would change. And not, I mean this in the greatest way possible, if they knew that you were such a badass.
Thanks, Charlie.
Okay, so I want to talk about your experience so far on Tough before we get to the actual fight, your victory. How has it been living in the Tough house? I mean, not only that, but having Amanda Nunes as a champion as your coach.
Man, I was real lucky to have the GOAT as my coach. And her team of coaches as well. I got a really strong connection with all of the coaches. I learned so much from all of them. And even from my teammates. I cannot tell you enough how much I lucked out with Team Nunes. Every last person on our team was positive. They were there to work, ready to work, and just being in that environment for 6 weeks was awesome. I loved it. I definitely evolved.
So entering the fight, Team Nunes has struggled a little bit this season. I mean, Team Pena has been, more or less so dominant this season of Tough. Did you feel any additional pressure knowing that it was up to you ending the preliminary round to turn the momentum back in the favor of Team Nunes?
Yes, there was. I wouldn't say so much pressure, but because I didn't feel it like in a negative way, but I did feel like I wanted to go out there and make my team proud. I felt like there was just after the first few fights, there was so much of a different vibe in the house. Now that we've established some of us as winners and losers, like the more time goes on, the more that kind of starts to build where I'm like, this is my team, we gotta win. So there was that kind of like competitive edge for me for sure.
Absolutely. And not to mention, you had a knee injury that was, I guess, still somewhat lingering from earlier on in the season. You were actually meant to fight several weeks ago.
Right.
And then because of, what happened with the other team's competitor, you were able to step aside from that week's worth of fights, which ended up being the best thing that could have happened for you and Team Nunes. So first injury of your career, A. B, it's happening at the most important moment so far in your career, or at least one of them. What was going through your mind heading into the fight, knowing that meanwhile you were feeling okay, but knowing that this was something that could give you a little bit of trouble, and then also how did it end up feeling throughout the course of the fight?
So there was a time period I kind of went through all of the emotions, the whole reel. At the beginning of my injury, before I got information about exactly where I stood with the tear, my emotions were just all over the place. I was coming to the realization that it was very possible, very likely that I wouldn't be able to do what I came there to do, represent everybody who has invested in me like I wanted to. I think that was the biggest thing, like making it all the way there and then having to deal with that. But once again, there was some divine timing and there was just also some divine things in play. The way that I had Amanda and Nina, help me through this injury. They are familiar with dealing with knee injuries, and they kind of just held the vision for me from the get-go. I was going crazy with, all of the thoughts that could send me. But Nina and Amanda, they truly believed from the get-go that I was going to work through it, that I was going to be just fine, and that I was, still going to do well and move on in the competition. And I had to believe that too, in order to get, to fully prepare myself mentally to step in the cage. I had to believe like you can still win, you can still do this. So I'm super glad that I had them there to coach me from beginning, like my injury, all the way through how to work around it, how to build a game plan, how to strategize, and just mentally how to overcome going in there with the fear of re-injuring it or anything else like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. You really couldn't ask for better people in your corner for what you were going through. Now, also in your corner for what you were experiencing throughout the fight. I mean, it was almost mind blowing because I think most people, it was obvious that you took the first round, but the second round, even Dana White was like, wait a second, the fight's over. I mean, even your coach, Amanda Nunes, didn't think that you were going to have the majority decision after the second round. When you heard that the fight was over and your hand was raised, what was your immediate thought?
Because I have so much going on, I think I wasn't really worried about having a third round. I know I had the gas to go for a third round.
You looked like you were preparing to start the final 5 minutes.
Absolutely. And I think just because I believe she got my back for the end of that second round. And I think in my mind,
yeah,
I didn't know how much time we were there. I didn't know how much the judges were going to count that. And I was just, trying to keep my head in the game.
Were you then surprised though when your hand was raised? I mean, was there any surprise, or did you feel like, okay, yeah, this was deserved. This is how the fight should have gone?
I definitely felt like I did enough. Yeah, I had enough control time in both rounds, I believe, to win the fight.
Yeah, I mean, that was what you said all along. Your game plan was to control the pressure and the distance. So you feel
Right.
like you did that to the best of your ability.
I do, especially with, working with the injury and with my opponent being the grappler that she is, knowing that she wanted to take me down. I'm very happy with the way it panned out.
So speaking of your opponent, Hannah, it was a little comical because when she heard that you had a black belt, she was like, oh, well, she's not that good of a black belt. What was your reaction to hearing that commentary?
I didn't hear that. This is the first time hearing that.
Well, have you watched the episode yet?
My episode, I have not.
Okay,
No.
well, there you go. Yeah. I mean, well, then let's get your live reaction now. I mean, obviously, she's probably just like trying to hype herself up as well. You know what I mean? I'm sure she respects you so much, but hearing that, like, what comes to mind?
Yeah, what comes to mind is I'm sure her grappling is great. That's what she believes is her strong suit. But in order for her to take advantage of that, she would have to take me down, and she really struggled with that.
Yes.
So I could hear her corner just screaming for take her down, and she struggled with that. So, and I dropped her a couple of times too. So,
what in that fight would you say you were most proud of?
Looking back on it now, I think I was most proud of two things: how I worked through the injury and worked around it, and also like how I kind of trusted my hands. I do have proficient striking, and I think sometimes in there I'm a little hesitant or I don't trust myself enough. And I think that this fight I had to rely on my hands, and they did well for me. So.
And finally, your nickname is the Bear. How did you get that nickname? What exactly does it mean?
So prior to being the Bear, I was called the Killer Bee. And I kind of felt like I had an evolution, especially lately in my career. It's been a big turning point. I've gone all in, like quitting my job, moving away from my friends and my family. And like I said, just kind of, putting all my eggs in one basket. So as opposed to where I was kind of like, I guess, now I'm more protecting the hive rather than working like away from home, but still representing. I'm here and kind of I'm actually all over getting ready for this. So
And where are you now? Are you
right now,
back
oh, I'm in California training.
in California? Okay.
Right.
Well, you've inspired me at least to take a trip to Guam at some point. It seems awesome.
Oh,
So, thank you so much, Brogan. That's by the way, really,
Charly.
really cool name. Brogan is just like a badass name. Like I could totally see that being like such a marketable, name, like for your career. So
Hey, Charly, I
I like
appreciate
it. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Congratulations on your preliminary win. And we cannot wait to see what happens next for you in this competition.
All right, I appreciate it so much. Thanks for speaking.
Absolutely.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus.